Hi, it's Calder here from Singing Matters once again, and I'm going to talk to you today about mixed voice, singing in the mix. What the hell are people talking about when they say singing in mixed voice? How can you tell whether you're doing it or not? What are the problems that you have in reaching that part of your voice and getting that set up right? I spent years singing without having a clue about any of these phrases, didn't know what any of it meant, never even heard of it for years. What is mixed voice? And why is it so damn hard? Let's have a look. So mixed voice is all about singing with a balance. It's all about singing in a way that allows us to get into our higher range without straining. And the problems you have when you're not singing in mix is that you're probably using your chest voice set up way too much. You're trying to pull your chest right into that top part of your range, and yeah, we want some of that tone to be in there. There'll be plenty of videos how to pull your chest voice higher and all that kind of stuff, but essentially we're singing in mix when we do that. Now, why is it called mix? It's because we're mixing the resonance. And if you don't know much about this, when you're in your chest voice, you maybe heard of chest voice and head voice. It's called that for a reason. It's called that because when you talk in your lower part of your voice, you are resonating your chest bones and the whole bone structure in your chest, and you can feel it. Just put your hand on your chest when you talk. Doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy, you'll still be resonating that part of yourself because your frame and your cabinet of your instrument, if you like, is still resonating in you, in that part of yourself, because it's that part of your voice that you're using. When we get higher, it's like, hang on, you can't feel it in the chest anymore. If you feel your head, literally put your hands on your face, and when you're talking like this, you'll feel it in your face, in your chest voice as well. You'll feel that when you're talking in the lower part of your voice, you can still feel it here. You can still feel a vibration. It's very subtle, but you're going to start noticing these sensations. But as soon as you raise higher, it's gone from the chest. You've left the chest. There's not a sense of vibration happening there, but you can still feel it in your face and in your head. Okay, so we're vibrating and resonating different parts of our bone structure. The thinner part of your skull and your face and your cheeks is resonating while you sing in the higher range, but you're also resonating this lower part of yourself, the bigger bone structures in your body, when you're in your chest voice. And that's simply why it's called chest voice and head voice. It's a physical thing that's happening. Everyone feels like it starts to get a bit woo and a bit weird and stuff when you start talking about these things, but it's not. It's just physics. It's just the physics of it. And really, you should be understanding your instrument. We want to think of it as an instrument, understanding that this is your instrument. How does it work? What the hell's happening when you use it? You wouldn't play any other instrument without understanding how it works, to some extent. You can't. So yeah, you need to start doing that with your voice. And people aren't ready. I say this in my last video as well. People just aren't ready for that. But it's my job to try and convince singers of what they need to be thinking about. And I know this because I was the same. It took me years to understand what I should be thinking about and what I need to be doing as a singer, and how the hell to start controlling it and containing myself when I sing by breaking down all these different parts of the puzzle. So in my opinion, we're also mixing something else as well. Now, I don't know whether this is what was intended with the phrase mixed voice. I could look it up and see what people say about that, actually. I'm pretty sure the mixed voice phrase comes from the resonance of mixing the resonance. So you're getting the voice to start using both the sorts of areas of resonance to allow it to kind of start moving up into that higher part of the range. But we're also mixing and blending the muscle groups that are in use as well. And the problems people have is when they have strain and tension and they sing hard, is they go, ah, and they're using the chest voice muscles, but they're not letting the other part of the mechanism do its job. And then they feel like they hit this ceiling. So vocal cords are held in a V shape at the front of your larynx, your Adam's apple here. This is your voice box. And they're tiny little things in your throat, but they're held in a V shape at the front by the muscle groups that we more associate with chest voice, okay? As you get higher, there's some muscles at the back pulling backwards. Now, they're coming together hundreds of times a second as well, relative to whatever pitch you're singing, the frequency that you're singing. But they're pulling back. There's these muscles pulling back on the vocal cords, stretching them out so they're thinner and stretched. That's what makes it a high note. And then they move faster as well. So they're getting stretched thin, which means you can't blast loads of air through and loads of force. It's like, oh my God, they're trying to hang it on for dear life. Think about it. If you can visualize some of this stuff, it'll really, really help you singing. It helped me so much to really get a grip on what was happening. Pulling back. Like that, okay? So when we're not using those muscles at the back, you just get this ceiling, like I said a minute ago. You hit this point, you just can't go any higher. You're trying to pull all this weight up. And this tension starts to creep in. So what we're trying to do, what we're also mixing, getting back to my original point, is the use of these muscles. Now, in your chest voice, you might be using, in the lower part of your voice, you might not be using these muscles at the back very much at all. You might be using them 5 or 10%, just a little bit involved, a little bit engaged, because you want both of them to be involved. But as you get higher, they start to get more involved, and the muscles at the front need to let go. And it's training yourself to let go, which is one of the hardest things most people struggle with. Either they can't get any higher or they flip into a falsetto because they just force themselves to sort of let go all of a sudden. And what we're trying to do is mix those uses of those different muscle groups, blend gradually. You want to think of it as this constant scale of like, it's 90, 10%, then it's 85-15, then it's 80-20, and it's just gradually as you move higher, you get to 45-55, and as you move higher, these muscles are taking over more and more, and you're trying to let go, but just keep the ones at the front engaged a little bit to maintain some of that power and some of that strength. And we're also trying to make sure that we just get a little bit of that resonance happening in both areas, enough to keep that power about it as well. But if you're too much chesty, you will struggle and you will have that problem. So the most important thing to teach people is to let go. Okay. Sometimes if you're anything like me and you sing with a lot of strain and a lot of tension, it's really hard to train yourself to let go. So mixed voice is a mix of resonance, and it's a mix of the muscles as well. It's how you're using the muscles. And we can train ourselves to get better at this stuff. So one of the key things about singing in your higher part of your range, if you struggle with it, is less is more. And like I just said, letting go. Less breath pressure, less volume, just less air as well. You can't force so much air through the chords. You will cause strain to try and keep those chords together and make the note come out. You will have to strain to do that if you're forcing too much air through. So we need less breath pressure. We need to go for less volume as well. And it's a trick to try and learn how to sing high, but quietly. So I'm just sort of adding those two different tones back in there. I'm still not singing loudly. It's still not loud. I'm not shouting. There's no sense of strain having to happen there to get that note to come out. And sometimes people can only get that note to come out when they strain. So it really takes a bit of time to undo all these habits to sort of start to get your voice working in an easy, effortless, free kind of way. But that's a good trick to try. You want to be going, you can, if you start to put your stomach into it and put a little bit of anchoring into it, you might get a bit of grit out of it, but you might also strain it as well. But you're trying to play between that light and that more engaged sort of sound, and just see if you can flip between the two and blend between the two. I wouldn't have been able to do that years ago. There would have been absolutely no chance I would have been able to do that. I could only hit that note with all this oomph and power. And if that's the case, if you feel like you have to brace yourself for a higher note, there's something wrong. There's probably a lot of things wrong. And it's hard work, but it is possible. I've been through it, and it is possible to fix these things and learn how to sing in that more effortless way. So a lot of people think that singing it just kind of feels the way it feels, and that's how it is. But again, my job as a coach is to try and make people understand that just because you're used to feeling that way when you sing does not mean that that's how it should be. It doesn't mean that that's how it should stay. It doesn't mean that it's correct. And we've got to start understanding what we feel so we can break down what's good and what's bad and what's okay and what isn't. And again, it's so crucial. Start feeling, stop listening. Stop listening to yourself and start feeling, okay? And one of the things that we listen for, or one of the things that we can improve our voice by understanding, is that when it sounds loud and impressive in a high note, when you listen to a singer on record, try not to replicate that. Try not to replicate what you think you hear, because we've often got that all wrong. Often it's about the production, and really those high notes just sound impressive. They sound loud as well, because our ears are tuned to hear that frequency range much louder than anything else. That's the way our ears work. It helps us be alerted to danger and these sorts of things. So, you know, that we hear that frequency and it sounds more loud to our ears. It also sounds impressive because we just know instinctively that sounds hard to do, because we wouldn't imagine just doing it with our voices very easily. And that's why singing sounds so impressive, because we can just tell that that's difficult to do. How are they doing that? That sounds amazing. You just instinctively know that, you know. So try not to replicate what you think you hear on record and think, oh yeah, but they sound like that. No, they don't. Not always. Sometimes, but not always. Are they doing anything? They're actually holding back a lot more than you realize. Holding back, holding back, holding back. Sometimes when people go for those sorts of notes, me 10 years ago would have just been so much intensity about that if I'd have sung that sort of note several years ago. So we're trying to let go. And a key thing to remember is that you're trying to let go lower down in your range than you think. If you hit a ceiling where your voice suddenly flips into a falsetto, or you can't get any higher, you need to let go of the chest voice lower down than you think. So you can feel that pressure build. It's like, no, this isn't right. Earlier down as you go up. So already there, it doesn't feel particularly high, but you've already got to be letting go. You've already got to start to blend. You've already got to start to mix those muscle groups and let go at the front and let the job of the muscles at the back, let them do their job. But it's starting to go up here into the nasal cavity. It's starting to get into this part of your face. You're starting to feel it. Kind of feels like it goes over a hump. That nasality is important. It lives in here. It's not like we want to sound nasal, but if you start listening to singers, you might realize that there's a lot more nasality in what they do than you realize. My first couple of videos on my YouTube channel here are not very structured necessarily. I'm having a little bit of a chat about some of the basic principles of professional singing to try and help people understand what it is that they should be thinking about. If you feel that intensity and that pressure start to build as you raise higher, running a scale, dare I say, doing a scale or an exercise. It's so hard to convince people to do this stuff. But really, are you a singer if you're not working on these things and you know there's something up with how it feels or how it feels after a gig? You've got to be doing scales and exercises. Just play around. And if you feel that pressure, it's like, right, that's got to be wrong. And just realizing that's not how it needs to feel takes ages for people. They just don't know any better. If they're anything like me, I remember that feeling. So I'm sure, and I've seen other singers and I've seen people I coach who are like that, and they don't know that it doesn't have to feel that way. So you're trying to train yourself to change what is okay in your sensations when you sing, to undo the habits and break things down and reprogram what your body does and what your voice does when you go to sing. So try that light to more engaged dynamic. See if you can create that dynamic distance between the two things in your voice and get that really falsetto and light. And just trying to get in between. There's a little bit of a flip there going on for me there. You're trying to get in between the extremes of tones that you've got there. And if you can't do that, then there's definitely a problem with what you're doing. And there's definitely a strain. There are definitely muscles getting involved that need to get out of the way. So we've got to practice letting go and noticing what we feel. It could be in the breath. It always comes back to breath. If you're trying to do that sort of thing that I just did there and you feel this as you go to sing, then it's breath function that you need to work on first. And it always comes back to that. That will always undermine anything else that you're trying to fix. So if you need to work on your breathing, look out for the habits of what happens when you first go to sing, how much air is escaping, how much you can hear the air in the note, how much you can feel the air escaping as you sing through the phrase, and how much pressure just generally the whole body feels like it's under, because that's not how it should feel. Trust me, I ruined my voice doing this, and I'm really keen. I'm really passionate to make people understand what it is that they might be doing wrong. And you wouldn't be watching this if you weren't intrigued in some way about that. So, okay, here's something else I want you to try. I want you to try a falsetto. A falsetto note going down below the sort of range that you would normally associate with falsetto. Because by doing that, you're practicing singing in the lower part of your range, kind of without any chest voice. It's just a way of tricking yourself into starting to use the muscles at the back and less of these. And sometimes, again, it's really hard to get people doing it, but that's one way. I only really sort of grabbed back hold at the very bottom there. So try that. Light falsettos, siren down. Use an oo vowel to do it because it's a nice falsetto sort of vowel. It lends itself to it. Ooh, and try and go low in that really light kind of setup. And this is completely different to how you might want to sing, and it might not be the desired sound, but we've got to find the extremes in our voice. We've got to find the different palettes. We've got to find the different tones in there. We've got to find the different balances of muscle in there to start getting control of these things and start to remove that strain that you might be experiencing all the time. And I'm particularly interested in people who have got a lot of strain and tension in their voice, because that's been my journey, and that's how I've worked out all this stuff and become a coach, because I had to understand it to fix the things that were wrong in my voice. So I hope some of this is helpful. I'm going to be doing lots more videos breaking down the kind of core principles of professional singing. If you have any questions or comments, please fire away, and I wish you all the best with your singing. Good luck.